We're going to talk about this really quickly. Um, Abbott's 45, how's it going? Okay, so normally I talk about all things that can help us get an epic life. I do a lot of reading. Just whipped through this in a couple of days. Really, it was about 45 minutes to an hour it took me to whip through this book. Pretty simple book. I really liked the idea of, he just said, I want to write a book and I want to do big things. I want to be on TV. And hey, Carolina, I want to do all these things. And he just did it. I loved that part of it. Most of it's pretty simple, but I'll just whip through it really quickly and then tell you where it connected to me at all. Thank you again for the heart. I choose, instead of flesh-colored hearts, let's just say they're peach. How about that? I'll take the peach hearts. Thanks so much. Okay, so first thing, pretty simple. Here we go. He says, 10x all your goals. Make them 10 times bigger than you originally think. Okay, so yeah, peach is less awkward. Pretty simple idea, I guess. You know, like if you want $1 million, screw that. Let's go ahead and do $1 billion. Now, for me, I can't really trick myself. If you know, like, and I found that money goals for me don't really work quite as much as passion goals. But that is, yeah, moonshots. I guess you could kind of think of it that way. But the moonshots is from the book Bold, or it's actually not from the book Bold, but they talked about it in Bold by Peter Diamandis. And that's like really shooting for the moon, right? Google X, yeah, that's what it is, Paul. And I absolutely like that idea, but just kind of arbitrarily making it 10 times bigger so that, you know, no matter where you come in, you know what I mean? Like, let's say you don't actually get the $1 billion, but you made 150 million. Well, that's better than just choosing $1 million and possibly getting it. Right, so you know, I guess that's okay. Kind of a simple idea, but what I did like that he said is also 10x your action. You know, don't just do, you know, a lot of action that you would have done to get maybe that $1 million, if we're going to just use money terms, like he mentioned at one point. You know, like if you're going for $1 billion, obviously you're going to take completely different action than just the smaller $1 million. So that was the big thing, 10x your work, and I would agree with that. I'll tell you, when I first started my first business that I'd ever started about 11 years ago, actually, just before I started Internet Business Mastery, I worked a lot. I worked 7 days a week, at sometimes anywhere from 12 to 16 hours a day. Now, it wasn't all just work. I mean, I was learning. I was doing everything to do with making the business happen. I had to make it happen. He says, work so hard you're about to puke. Yeah, I mean, like, he's really big on that. And, you know, parts of me go, I don't know. But I was like, well, when I started, I actually did. Like, I didn't take days off. Now, part of that is because I burnt the bridge. Like, let's see, Napoleon Hill talks about, you know, when you start something, he talks about this great general that brought all of these people over and to this, you know, they went across the ocean or across wherever, and, you know, they had them burn all their boats so they couldn't retreat. They had to move forward, right? Well, I did that when I decided I was going to do this business thing, I quit my job. I just completely quit. I didn't do it. I didn't continue doing my job. Well, Cortez, there's what it was. Yeah, How to Sand a Floor. Thanks. I didn't, you know, do both. I just quit my job and went, okay, I've got a little bit of savings. I got to make this happen as soon as possible. And I actually did that partly because of reading that in the book, going, okay, well, you know, I've heard other people say that as well. Let's really, really go for this. And no joking around, no messing around. I'm going to do it. And yeah, I worked at least 12 to 16 hours a day. And, you know, like, I don't know, I guess it was in the first month or so I actually made a profit. I remember my first month ever doing business, I did, I think it was $645 just $645. Now, I'd put thousands of dollars in, so I hadn't broke even yet, but I did at least make $642, which then, of course, went to what I put into it. And it took me, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months to start breaking even, which for me at the time was $2,500. I had sold we had 2 cars. I had sold one of the cars. Oh, great video quality. Great. Just a minute ago, we were freezing and I couldn't even get anything coming across. You couldn't see the screen at all. I guess you could hear me. But anyway, so I did everything, no cable, you know, and obviously this was 11 years ago. There was no Netflix or any of that stuff. But I got all my bills down to about $2,500 a month, including my mortgage. That's the upside of living in Utah, at least back then. I moved away from LA and bought a house in Utah. But anyway, so I was definitely doing that. I was doing what he said, 10x the amount of work. Do more work than anybody else that's trying to do the thing you're doing. And I'll tell you what, I've been listening to, I'm almost finished with the Elon Musk biography. And he's somebody that did that. Jeff Bezos from Amazon, I just finished his book. He worked insane hours as well. And they actually demand that of a lot of their inner circle employees, is massive work. So I guess Grant is onto something there, the 10X book. And then the thing that he said, probably as much as, God, there's a couple, I say right all the time. I have a couple of words that I say constantly. His was massive action. Massive action. I think he said it 10x times, definitely in the book. So, his everything was about taking that massive action. Now, that's something I definitely do as well. And there's one other thing that I do, and that's about obsession. But taking massive action is, if you're wanting to do this Periscope thing or you want to do a business, it's like, don't just mess around with it. Don't, take that absolute massive action. Every minute you can, put it into that. Massive action equals massive results. Yeah, thinking now, because 10x work to happen, bigger team, more action. Right. All right, so when it comes to goals, one of the things that he says he does is he writes out his goals every day. The moment he finishes one, he absolutely smacks another goal onto his list. And he always, the other part of it is, he chooses objectives just out of reach. So when he decided, I guess, to write this book, he had written another one but self-published it. When he decided to write this book, he didn't know any publishers. He also wanted a television show. He wanted all of these things, and they were completely out of reach. And that was his goal. I want everything to be completely out of reach, so it really, really stretches you. You got to keep adding goals. Now, see, it's funny because I've actually, over the last month, I've been talking about how I've been learning about habits, because I was getting about 10% of my goals over the last 20 years. I had a 10 to 15% success rate depending on the year. And I've realized that really it was the habits that I wasn't creating to make the goal happen. So digging deeper, it's a funny thing, because I think the way it sounds like he did all of this was basically pure, almost, it seems like, mindless rushing as hard as you can before you think at all, trying to get absolutely everything as fast as possible is what it feels like based on what he was saying. And unfortunately, my mind doesn't work in that way exactly. I can't just mindlessly rush towards a goal. I think about every aspect of it. So I have to have, I think, understand the habits and be able to do that stuff behind the goals. What is a win streak? I'm not sure. Somebody must else. Let's see. His approach is opposite of Charlene Johnson's currently more balanced approach. Yeah, he very much. What are your thoughts on burnout? Okay, I'll talk about that in a second. Oh man, I already forgot the first one that you guys asked me about. What is his idea on something? Oh, it's an app by Dan Sullivan. That's the Win app or whatever. So balance, he says, that's what it was. He says balance is complete nonsense. When you find what it is you want to do, what your goals are, go for those goals 100%. And that's in some ways what I did when I got started, doing that 12 to 16 hours a day. Basically, I didn't have hobbies. And in fact, a couple of years ago, Jason and I from Internet Business Mastery, we were talking about how, God, we don't have hobbies. And it was because we put everything, we absolutely loved our business and did every single thing we could to get our business going. And other than that, there was family time, but there wasn't a lot of travel time back then when we were just getting the business built. There wasn't a lot of friend time even. I mean, I lost a lot of friends mostly because I was trying to do the business thing and they still were in the corporate thing and didn't have any interest in what I was doing. Same thing happened to me. Sean says, always something to improve or do. Yeah, like if you're passionate, and I'll get to that in a second. All my hobbies pretty much are about the business and this whole epic life stuff myself. It's all reading. I love reading. I love reading and then talk about what I'm learning and reading and developing for my mind and the action I'm taking. Like taking action is my hobby. Like I like having that as a hobby. So he also says that obsession is a gift. It's not bad, right? Like it's an awesome thing, and it's funny. Nikki there. Oh, hey Sandy. I do think you have to live your life according to your own personality and values. Yeah, if you're somebody who's far more balanced and likes having every one of those things exactly perfect, I guess that's one thing. But for me, I'm definitely more. I'm trying to get more integration rather than segregation. But balance. If my hobby is reading and telling you guys about that, and it happens to be what I do for business as well, then how awesome is that to me? That's how I see it. But he also talks about obsession is a gift. And I love that because, almost 5 weeks ago, I got obsessed about learning about this Periscope. And I'm so excited and glad about what has come from this. I've got over 500 people in the Facebook group, which is, I didn't even grab my little thing, but it's epiclifeleague.com. If you're not already in the Facebook group, definitely get in there. But got 500 people in there, almost got 1,000 people on Periscope, almost 200,000 hearts. Thank you again for the hearts. Again, this is just showing if I'm giving you value, you tap the screen a bunch of times and it gives hearts. But all of those things came from my obsession with this idea of how Periscope works. Like we're just, this could be just, we're hanging out in my office and I'm telling you, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell you something really quick. I just finished this book. Here's some cool things about it, right? Like that got me really, really obsessed, as well as starting and growing a community like in the Facebook group. So that was my obsession, and he's huge on that. Let's see. Griffin, I love that name actually. I used to go by Sterling, that was my nickname, but Griffin is the other name. I almost would have named my one daughter, but she ended up being a daughter instead of a son. If I had a son, it would have been Griffin. Okay, how do you think you find something to be obsessed about? Yeah, that's a whole series of scopes. Really, it's finding that thing that absolutely when you wake up you're completely excited about. Right? It's so strange. And I even started scopersecrets.com because I thought Periscope itself was the thing. But really, it's this connection we can have at an even different level than podcasting, which obviously podcasting has done very, very well for me. But I like the fact that we can have this interaction. Like you were able to ask that question as if we're almost hanging out. I love that even more. But I just got obsessed with this medium. It's trying different things, going down rabbit holes. It's live. Yeah, I love the live thing. For the first about 3 weeks of doing this, I was very, very nervous. Even to the extreme of when I would go on stage and speak. It was as much that as anything else, even though I can't see you guys other than the comments. I'm all about connections. Yeah, I just, on Sandy's podcast, just did an interview for that podcast. Love talking about that. You're still really nervous? Yeah. Thanks for suggesting tinyhabits.com. It helped me realize it's easy to create new habits. Awesome. Yeah, I have my sheet up every day with all the tiny habits I'm doing right now. Just to make sure I'm doing it, I X out the ones that I actually do. Your last scope was a disaster. Good. Learn from it, right? You might not have got the result you wanted, but if you learn from it, then it's of value. Finally caught you live. Yes, welcome. Finally. Life rewards action, not reaction. It's all about anchoring to existing routine behavior. Yes, that's the tiny habits. Okay, so I did want to say one more thing about this. Passion over money. Let's see what we got. Do you think it's always better to have a career you obsess over, though? or keep it as a hobby. No, why not make money from the thing that you absolutely love and obsess from? Like I see no problem with that. Now I read a while ago about the whole extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation, and I did read one study that said if you're intrinsically motivated for something, which is usually what a passion is, then if you start adding the element of needing to make money from it, it can become an extrinsic goal. But then I saw a bunch of other research that said it's actually completely not true, and that the first research, they did it wrong. They actually did the research wrong. It wasn't controlled or something like that. Because I was starting to go, oh, should I really do what I want? If it's going to pull my intrinsic desire to do it. But luckily found that that wasn't actually the case. And I'll tell you, adding the element of money, it's funny because I think that with our podcast, with Internet Business Mastery, we were doing it completely out of a desire to do it. We didn't plan on turning it into a profit center. It wasn't until people started asking us, where's your course? I want to buy your course, or will you do coaching? Or, can I pay you to teach me how to do what you were doing? That we started doing it, and we were able to make millions of dollars without ever intending to do that with it. So I don't know. I'm a big proponent for actually finding the thing you're completely passionate and obsessed about, and then making that your business, right? So that's where I go with that. So anyway, one last thing. He talks about that. I guess, is it a fable? The tortoise and the hare, right? Where they're going to race. A turtle and a rabbit are going to race. Right, and of course the tortoise starts out really, really slow and just consistently works really slow, and the hare starts out really super fast and stops thinking that he's not going to lose and takes a nap, and fable. There we go. And he says, forget the tortoise and the hare, and he says, let's create another creature, and he calls it Smokey because he goes, I think if you combined both of those, you could smoke both of those. And it's really, and what he meant by this is exactly what I talked about in my last scope, which was the idea of impatient patience, right? The idea of taking massive action in the beginning, only getting enough knowledge, up to about 40% knowledge to just get started, and then the patience comes in. That is where you take the time to learn what you need to learn to go to the next level, and you have the patience to keep going until you get the goal that you want, which is as opposed to the patient impatience, where you're patient, I'll do that goal in a year, someday I'll do that goal, when I'm in my 40s, I'll finally learn about money, and then when you start trying to learn, you're impatient because, I'm not good at this stuff, and then you quit. I go for it 100% usually. You guys taught that, yeah, and so that was his thing. It was pretty cool because I've never heard anybody really talk. He didn't use the term impatient patience, but his talking about the fable and adding his little bit to it, where you create this new character called Smokey, and you're impatient in the beginning. You take massive action, and then you have the patience to keep going, just incrementally, step by step, until you get it. Trippin' Smokey. right. So anyway, that's it. That was the book. Those are the main things I got from this entire book. It is going to go on the shelf. It was good enough to go on the shelf. The ones that I don't want, they get tossed. I do still have a couple up there that need to get tossed. I give this book, I don't know, 2.5, 3 stars out of 5. But there were a couple of really good things, and I give them extra points for doing the impatient patience in a roundabout way. So Smokey sounds like an old hippie. Yeah, that was just him trying to create this new creature that could both start super fast and then be patient and consistent and make it all the way to the end. So there you go. Any questions? And by the way, if you're not already in the Facebook group, all you got to do is go to epiclifeleague.com, and that just takes you to the Facebook group. Join the Facebook group, read the description right away to make sure it's the right place for you. Do you have yeah, I do, as a matter of fact, have a list of, not all the books that I read, but I do have, it's jeremyfranson.com. I think it's just books. Let me try it really fast here. Yeah, just books. jeremyfranson.com/books. Uh, where you recent book recommendation. Oh yeah, my 5 stars, you can find that at the jeremyfranson.com/books. Also in the Facebook group, I link to that in the description, and you can see kind of my top books right now. I was going to comment about, oh yeah, thank you, Jeremy LaPierre. That is the link right there, /books. Let's see. Do you work from an outline when you do these scopes? Sometimes, yeah. This one I wrote down. I don't know if you can see it. I just wrote down a couple of notes. So 10x goals in action, celebrate small wins, and then I missed the rest of it. But so yeah, I'll do a really quick one. He says 10x all your goals. Make your goal 10 times greater than you're even thinking of it, and then do 10 times the work to get it. Everything's about taking massive action. And he says he writes out his goals every single day. He writes them all out just to be able to see that. And then he always chooses objectives just out of reach, way past what he's able to do right now. He said obsession is a gift. And then he kind of talked about what we talked about before, the impatient patience. Now, Paul said, I thought I would need to when I start doing them. I don't know what you were mentioning that from. And you can, again, check out the Facebook group. Thank you so much for all of the hearts. Again, I just thought I would just jump on. Now I'm about to read the book Anti-Fragile. And so when we get off, and I'll do burnout here in a second. I promise. Outline, yeah, it's super quick, and I usually do that. In fact, I do it every time because I have to have an outline so that I can remember all the little minor points that I wanted to go over. And as far as burnout goes, I'm not sure what exactly the question was, but for me, because I'm so passionate about what I'm doing, burnout is not a problem, although sometimes I need a little break, and I might watch a show that I like, take a walk, do this kind of stuff, or take the afternoon off to just chit-chat about something else. I just regulate it very, very specifically that way, but I love what I'm doing. Whether it's this epiclifeleague.com or Internet Business Mastery, all this stuff, I love to just different levels. I can't imagine what else I would be doing now. So Paul says, ever consider making blog posts with your book reviews? I actually might create a membership around it. At which point I would do something a little more formal, since I'm getting through so many books, and I'm marking up these books like crazy. I still gotta put this through. I'm just about halfway through this book as well, and I get a lot of notes and stuff like that, but I try and cut out anything extra. So that might be something I do. But yeah, as far as the burnout, that's kind of how I handle the burnout, with basing things on passion. It's not a long-term thing, I feel, the burnout. How do you keep the comments so long and still be able to read them? When I see the comment come up, if you tap the comment, it brings up a screen where it says, I can view, Paul, your profile, or block you, or cancel. But at the very top, it gives your comment. Something I just learned recently. I was going to mention that in Scoper Secrets, a couple of the little tips like that. And sometimes I don't get there fast enough and it goes away, but sometimes not. So there you go. Okay, any other questions before I go? This was awesome, just a little afternoon thing. Usually I put just a little bit, more. I have notes and different things. Cool tip. Yeah, I loved that little one. Yeah, thanks so much. You finally made it. That's awesome. Pretty cool. Thanks for the time. All right, passion over money. What's up? Yeah, very good. This is so great, Jeremy. Thanks. Yeah, it's early today, right? Yeah, this is my second one today, and I'm just going to keep doing things like this. I'm constantly having thoughts and different things going on. After I did Sandy's interview today, I had to make a whole bunch of notes, so maybe I'll talk about some of that stuff as well. Her podcast's all about connection, and I got to talk about the 2 big connections. Sandy, are you still here? You should put the name of your podcast if you are, so people can check it out. I really loved it. I haven't done an interview about connections like that, so that was really fun, talking about my 2 biggest connections. But Anyway, anything else? Any other questions? Um, I guess basically, I guess take action as far as from his book is being able to write down your goals every day and think of your goals on a grander scale. He did say one other thing before I go. He said that a lot of times when we start writing down our goals, we start minimizing the goals. So the only one I can think of, he's talking about money. Give some hearts, people. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, guys. Is let's just say we'll use money just to make it really easy. If you were like, oh, I want to make $1 million, and then as you're starting to write it out, he says a lot of people will go, well, really, I only need $150,000, $150,000 a year, and people will start minimizing. Don't do that, he says. Instead, make it 10 times. $1 billion, right? Yeah, Grant's. Yeah, his scopes are interesting. Like seeing him on his private jet. Yeah, that's a trip to watch some of his stuff. It's so funny because my energy to me feels pretty high, but sometimes he can tire me out. Lots of everyday life stuff. Yeah. Did you speak about burnout? I did. Oh, the cell froze up. Yeah, what's your question specifically about? Yeah, he's an unusual character for sure. Setting the stakes and making goals public then. Yeah, that's some people find that that's useful. That I don't need public pressure myself or that public, other people knowing about them per se. Really, for me, it was getting the habits to make the goals happen. But if that works for you, absolutely use it. But yeah, the burnout question, I just talked about how I'll take an afternoon off, or I'll even take a day off if I need to. I've also gone away on vacation just for a couple of days. The last time I had a little bit of burnout and I needed some time to think. I went to Newport Beach, met my brother down there, got a place right on the beach, and just played on the beach for a couple of days, just to get that burnout, figure out what's next, that kind of thing. But don't usually have a whole lot of problem with burnout with the passion stuff. I can barely sleep. Actually, this afternoon I got really, because I'm just finishing the Elon Musk book, I went and checked out the Tesla site because my friend who's actually in Belize right now, I was just talking to him about the places to scuba dive in Belize because I had a great time in Belize, a 10-day scuba trip in Belize. That was, I got to touch sharks. Like the guy showing us around, he grabbed a shark and it was actually swimming him around. It was a nurse shark. It looks like a real scary shark, but it's got the teeth that are like a whale. So indication of impatience. Maybe, yeah, that's actually interesting. I feel like I can't implement fast enough. Yeah, the key is to implement. I would slow down on the books, and in fact, I've been considering slowing down on the books instead of trying to do 3 to 5 specifically, because recently I've gotten a lot of really good books. This one, I have just a few notes. I won't need to do massive implementation on that, but some of these other books, the mindset book was awesome. Here's another one that I've got a bunch of implementation to do. The No Sweat book. Man, I got so much stuff in here. I'm trying to design what this researcher found about exercise into all aspects of habits. Totally not able to sleep. Yeah, so what I was saying is my friend that's in Belize, he got a Tesla a couple of weeks ago actually, and he keeps going, oh, you got to come check it out. And I was like, I'm not really all that into cars. But by finishing the Elon Musk biography, I went to the site and watched some of the videos about these things and got completely freaked out. It's so awesome. And I just keep thinking, how awesome is life now? It's absolutely insane, all the stuff that's coming. And all you got to do is listen to some of these biographies. The Elon Musk biography was really good. I liked hearing, his obsessions. Right, he had the obsession for space, obsession for electric and solar and this kind of stuff. I'm completely going to get, let me see if I've got it right here. I don't, but I've worked on a few Model S's, definitely a crazy vehicle. Yeah, they don't have an engine, like a normal typical engine. Where the engine is on most vehicles, it's, what's it called? A trunk. And then it still has a trunk. They have a Tesla store. Yeah, amazing cars. So my friend gets back next week, so we're going to have lunch, and he's going to show me the car. And if I'm able to, I will scope and show you guys the car, because I just love the fact that some guy just thought of this, and and got other people, including Elon Musk. There was one guy that kind of started all of this, and Elon Musk, they put it all together and made this thing happen. It was just an idea in his head that completely blows me away. I love it. And that's where the obsession comes in. He was completely obsessed with this stuff, as well as sending rockets to space. Like that's some crazy stuff. Whew. But anyway, okay, I'll probably be on tomorrow morning again. Epic Life League, check that out. Like the kid who didn't know it was supposed to be hard. Yes, that people really loved that story. By the way, the screen is sideways for me. Anyone know how to fix it? Yeah, you got to go upgrade the Periscope app. It just went landscape like this, and once you do that, restart your phone, and then you can spin it like this, and it'll do that. Yeah, you like that story. Yeah, that story. I have to keep remembering that. He wasn't using it as a tactic. He just didn't know it was supposed to be hard. Like he wasn't going. I'm trying not to know it's hard to make $10 million a year. He's just like, oh, is that supposed to be hard? Yeah, he didn't want me to say. I can tell you his first name. His first name's Andrew, and it's not the Andrew I've talked about. He was like, I don't want to be known in any way. I like knowing what I do, and I don't want anybody else to know. I had to pay him a sailboat. I had to pay partially for a sailboat for him to teach me some of the stuff that he taught me about traffic and all the cool stuff that he's able to do. He takes about 2 to 3 hours a day to be able to make that kind of money. That's some massive. If I was passionate about what he was doing, that's what I would be doing, because I paid big money to be able to learn it, and I use it in other ways. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Again, thanks for the hearts. Just chit-chatting. Any other questions? Try and find my drink here before I go. And I didn't bring the book in, but I'm reading Anti-Fragile next. So that's what I'm going to go read when we're done here. I guess if there's any other questions, go ahead and ask them in the Facebook group. Thanks again for coming in on a Friday afternoon. I didn't even know anybody would come in, but this is very cool. And I will talk to you guys later.